Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Sunday Sundae studio. We hope that you are having a good Sunday. Today's Father's Day, so happy Father's Day if there's any fathers listening to us. Maybe it's a little controversial to say, but happy Father's Day to all you single moms out there. There are some of us here in the group that raised children on our own. Okay, so I went out to listen to some music with a good friend of mine. We've been friends since we were in our early 30s. We worked together for a while. We were listening to this cover band, doing some really fun country music, and having conversation about what's going on with you, what have you been up to, et cetera, et cetera. And she said something to me that really just kind of stopped me in my tracks. She said, "I feel irrelevant." And like it hurt my heart a little bit. She's an intelligent woman. She's smart. She's kind. She's accomplished. She has a lot to offer, but she feels unseen. She's single, doesn't have kids. But again, she has all these other wonderful things that she's accomplished in her life. And again, my heart hurt when I heard her say that comment. But as I pondered that sentiment, I think it's not uncommon. I think that a lot of us probably feel that way or at some point have felt that way. So I want to talk about that today. So to the ladies, have any of you ever had that feeling that you are irrelevant, and what triggers that feeling for you?
It's a really good question. I don't know if I would use the word irrelevant, but when you read women's bio, one or two things, the first thing they say is mom. Like we're just
Mm.
categorized as that or wife.
Mm.
Where are our accomplishments and why are they not listed first? Why are we defined by the children we have or the title we hold next to somebody else?
Or what about wife?
Yeah, that's why I mentioned, wife. I am also single and I feel very powerful right now. Let's dance to Savvy's song.
Sorry.
I feel really powerful right now, but I am sure there's been times where I've felt like, what is my purpose? What am I doing here? And would anybody really care if I wasn't here just to provide money or to cover your car insurance or cover your phone bill? How relevant am I? And am I only relevant in terms of money?
Am I only relevant in what I can contribute? And I think that's a two-sided coin because we do want to be contributive, right? We want to contribute something to, and maybe I'm speaking for myself, to the greater good, to the world that we live in. We want, or at least I'll just speak an I, that's something that I desire, is to have some type of impact, even if it's, minimal. But I get that feeling, Shannon. I think it might feel a little bit heavy in your heart if the people that you love are just knocking on your door when they need something. Does that does that create that feeling, that tension that you just brought up, that am I only important to you, only relevant to you because of what I can financially contribute to you? Do you think that triggers that feeling or could trigger that feeling of not having a value aside of your bank account?
I think so. What about you? What about you, Aaron? What do you think?
For me, it makes me sad when people feel like they have to define themselves about based on what they're doing, what they're producing, And I think it's a good thing to, have accomplishments and goals, and but that can be a slippery slope when that's your how you define yourself based on what you do, not who you are. And for me, I think I've had to explore that a lot in my life and the things that make me feel fulfilled in life. Being a high achiever was kind of ingrained in us and, growing up, and it was an expectation in some ways. I really choose to try and get to know people for who they are, not what they do in the world.
Hmm.
It's usually one of my first questions, of what do you like to do or what do you do for work? Not, the first thing like I'm an ex whatever the career title is. It's usually how people introduce themselves, which is really interesting. They'll say their name and then it's what you do in the world for money and meaning too. I mean, not to say that, career work isn't important, but I think for me, it's finding what makes you light up inside, doing things that you love, and spending time doing that in the world can really help, give purpose. I've had a few friends over the years that have really gone through the same thing, and I didn't really even know that that was happening with a particular friend until that person was really, really, really struggling and just said, "I feel like I don't have any purpose. I just," like you were talking about, get up and go to work and pay bills, and, and I think our culture is really out of balance in that way, especially in the US, where we are really geared towards, that's how we spend our time all of the time and most of the time in the day. And our goals are focused on making money and being financially successful or having all the things and keeping up with the Joneses. And that's
Mm.
definitely a recipe for disaster, I think, in the long run when your kids are growing up and moving out of the house and you're kind of looking around going, "Okay, what do I do with my time now?" Because your priorities shift. It's when you don't have anything outside of that, outside of work focus or what society expects of you. I think a lot of women find themselves struggling, feeling alone and a little bit lost with that. I will say for me, one thing that really helps me is having this group of women, to to connect with regularly and to be able to talk about these things and be honest about it, of those struggles. I mean, that's really what comes to mind for me is this focus on materialistic things, things of this world versus who am I and what do I enjoy and what's my purpose here.
I think that's such an important question. What you just wrapped up your comment with, Erin, is who am I? And I think that's a struggle for, I mean, isn't that like an existential crisis, right? Where we're kind
Get
of,
out of my mind, Paula.
Yes.
okay,
Over here.
hop right in, Savvy. Because I think that's something we struggle with,
Mhm.
maybe, and not necessarily just at this stage of life, as we grow from childhood into maybe teenhood and early adulthood. I think that question sneaks in there.
Does. Mhm.
What do you want to say about that, Savvy?
Well, I was just thinking in regards to, your friend, when you get to that stage in life, all the questions, everything starts flooding you. And it is an existential crisis. Like all of a sudden you're like, what am I doing? What have I done? Am I doing anything? For me, because I feel like I felt that way. It was like a hard stop. And I had to really evaluate what was going on with myself. Who am I? Like, am I a wife? Am I a daughter? Am I a member of the church? Who am I? What am I doing? 'Cause it's like you have to feel it within yourself. Like, you have to personally, tangibly know that for yourself. Even if someone tells you these things, you might not even see the importance of yourself. It's like something you have to do for yourself, see yourself in that place.
How does someone do that, Savvy?
Everyone experiences these things individually. We walk an individual life. We can only, really give advice or whatever. But for me, I just, I don't know. One day I was like, what am I doing here? Like, what, other than my children, other than my mother, other than, my husband, everyone that calls my name, what am I doing? Because it's not them. What am I doing with myself? Because we're alone in this. When we, even though we're together, right? Even though we have friends, even though we have a support group, we are still individually walking a life alone for ourselves. And we
Mm.
have to find that in ourselves, that inner peace, that inner place, that strength within the inside. How does one do that? I mean, some people use self-help books. Some people are able to just speak to themselves, and others need support from other people to help lift them up.
I do think that the support from other people, I think, is really vitally important.
Mhm.
I heard this line many, many years ago, and it sticks with me. We're not capable of seeing ourselves. We only see ourselves through the eyes of others.
Oh,
So if people are lacking that, lacking their group of friends, the little nest, like Lena likes to call, they don't have somebody to reflect their
That beauty.
relevance, their value, their beauty, their contributions, the way they make you laugh, the way they make you question yourself. If you don't have somebody reflecting that back to you, I think it makes that feeling even stronger, that feeling of irrelevance.
that's so funny the word has come up because I went and got my nails done yesterday, and there was a woman in there. And this is not a, I don't go to a salon. I go to a young lady. She's like 20 years old. She has her own business, super talented, has her own suite. And there was a woman sitting there. And I was like, I was on the phone with my bonus mom. And as soon as I hung up, I turned around. I said, I know you. She told me who we have in common. I referred that person who then referred this person. So I've now referred 3 people there. And sometimes we run into each other.
Mhm.
And like I said, she's a small little business. And so I was telling her, I told her, I said, I'm proud of you. I said, look at all that you have accomplished. And so if you don't hear it, I'm proud of you. And I know I'm just irrelevant in your story. She
Mm.
said, you're not irrelevant. She was like, I look at the business I have gotten just from you.
Mm.
And just that little thing, I was like, and I didn't mean like irrelevant in the whole, like just irrelevant. Like, who am I to tell this young lady how proud I am of her? Because I told her, I said, if you were my daughter, I would tell you how proud I am of you all the time. And she doesn't
Oh,
have that.
Shannon, who are you
And
not to tell her that?
I'm just another client. I'm just another client. But she was like, but look at all the business I've gotten from just you. She was like, you're not
Mm.
irrelevant. I was like, oh, you're so sweet.
That makes me think of our other topic of when we were talking about the history that we leave, a legacy of
Mm.
life that we leave in other people's lives. Like the smallest, kindest gesture can change the thought process of anyone's day, of anyone's mindset. And so, what an awesome encouragement to give that young lady.
Mhm.
And you guys, what you just said, it doesn't have to be something huge. And I think we
Mhm.
talked about this when we talked about ordinary days to extraordinary days. But you guys
Mhm.
remember one of our early recordings where I shared about my birthday and my friend who showed up with the birthday cake?
Mm.
Such a small thing. I'm almost 52 years old, and that was my 11th birthday. And I still think
Still miss
about that moment and how I was feeling irrelevant. Yeah, I had this birthday, but I didn't get a birthday cake. And doesn't that define a birthday when you're a child? And then to have this friend who heard me and showed up on my doorstep with a birthday cake made me feel so incredibly seen and valued.
Wow.
And to this day, I think about that moment. And so for you, what you just did for that young lady, Shannon, in a way, you validated a part of her life, not her life entirely, but what is a big chunk of her life, how she makes her living, how she, you know, pays for her home and contributes to society. Some people might say, "Oh, she's just a nail tech," but to the ladies that go in there, to get pampered and to feel beautiful, and have a moment of respite, that's not just a nail tech.
Well, and
It's a
you've found somebody
Mhm.
that is putting their given gifts and talents and developed gifts and talents back into the world, and helping
Mhm.
share that with others makes a
Mhm.
difference in her life and for others too. So that's so cool.
Yeah.
I
I
just want to
usually
add
call
too,
those
I think
people
having a
artists.
create oh, I'm sorry. What?
I said I usually call those people artists
Oh,
Yeah.
Yes.
she is an
because
artist.
because they are
Mhm.
curating an art for you.
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. That's what I was gonna add is I think one of the things that I'm having moments like that, doing creative things can really help pull me out of a mindset where I'm feeling like I don't have a purpose, whatever it might be, like photography or trying a new artistic thing or just doing something creative, going and playing in the garden, in nature. And it can really shift your mindset and maybe help spark some ideas of things that you might not help make you feel irrelevant, maybe give you purpose, and something you want to explore. So I do think it's natural to have those dark moments too, because it helps us recognize, hey, maybe this is something I need to be paying attention to, and maybe I need to take some action here and do a little. So that the tough moments are necessary too for growth, and it provides an opportunity for focus some time and energy on that.
Minu, I love that background. Where are you sitting? Is that a chair? Or
I am, first of all, sorry for being late this morning. I am joining from my bedroom.
is that
I
your
have,
headboard?
yes, that's my headboard.
It's beautiful. Did you bring that?
Thank you.
Is it local or did you bring that from India?
That's from India. So it's like a mandala which has all paintings.
That's
So the
beautiful.
blessings of the universe.
Right over you as you sleep at night. I love it.
Yes.
That's pretty.
I wanted to ask you something because I struggled with this feeling of relevance when I was single amongst my married friends. And honestly, even sometimes, because as I've shared with you guys, my husband and I are very different. He's very, he's not super social where I am. I like to go hang out with my friends. I like to do things. I enjoy the company of other people as much as I enjoy my time alone. But I remember that feeling of feeling invisible, as a single woman or, showing up at events because my husband just chose not to participate, being the singleton amongst a bunch of couples, feeling kind of invisible. So has that ever come up for you, Minu?
I don't know if I should call it invisible, but yes, there are moments when, you feel as a third wheel.
Yeah.
You feel that, oh, you're extra. Or sometimes you feel that your married friends and you're part of a group think you as a project. I keep telling them, I'm not a project. You don't have to include me in everything. I understand this is a couple's thing. But yeah, I do feel extra, I would say, but not irrelevant. There are moments when I've felt irrelevant in life, especially when I'm like, what am I doing here? What is my purpose? Sometimes also when I'm burned down, I feel I'm overthinking, working in an autopilot mode. It's like when you're driving back from work, you don't put your home address on maps, but you exactly know where you're going, right? So though there are some moments when you're like, hey, could just somebody stop and talk to me versus telling me the tasks, the check or verifying a checklist. Just talk to me. And that's why, I value Patricia so much because she was one light in my life who would just out of the blue show up, whether it's a workplace, whether it's my home, just to say, I'm here only to give you a hug.
Oh,
I'm here only to hold your hand and tell you you're very important in my life. So, yes, we all need those words of encouragement, sometimes from strangers, sometimes from people who matter, sometimes from our own children, our parents. But it's like there is a big list of a checklist that you need to complete before
wow.
you even feel heard.
What you just said reminded me of Shannon when you shared with us when you were at the airport and you had the news that your mom had passed away and you just wanted somebody to like see you hurting and reach out and just give you a hug.
I was just thinking about that.
Yeah.
And sometimes people are very aware, like I remember when I think the only thing that has been constant in my life for the last 20 years would be my daughter, who's always been there for me. And I remember when she was moving out of state for her studies and I went to drop her, I was really trying to brave it. And, being an Indian mother raised her very differently. She was more confident than I was. Will she be able to live on her own? Will she be able to figure her life out? And I remember the moment I did not cry in front of her, but the moment I dropped her and I reached the airport, I just couldn't hold. It was just
Mm.
like like a gush coming out. And a young boy, he must be in his, I think, early 20s, just comes and pats me and says, are you okay? Do you need a glass of water? It felt so good that, what? I'm not invisible.
Wow.
There are moments, and sometimes I feel God shows up in different ways.
Definitely.
I like that because he does show up in different ways to show us that
Yes.
we are important, that we are
Yes.
relevant, that we matter, even in the grand scheme of things. I mean, like millions of people all around, life going on. And he just shows up in those small moments to let us know that, hey, you matter and you're important.
I need to get that shirt that I saw online that says tap my shoulder if you need a prayer. And I think I told you this. I left a comment underneath that ad and I said what we just talked about. Like I really could have used somebody at the airport when my mom had passed away and they offered to send me a free shirt. They said, "We're
Aw,
so sorry."
I should.
I still want the shirt, but, when it comes to, like, small businesses, I don't want discounts or anything free. I wanna support businesses, and I need to reach out and get that because I think if somebody had worn a shirt like that, I might have tapped their shoulder, and who knows who else might need that.
Oh, so many people.
Oh,
Mhm.
yes.
Yeah.
I saw something similar to your situation. My boss had come into town to do like a drive along with me, and she's like, "Let's meet at this cafe." And so we were sitting at a table, and I could see this woman like out of the corner of my eye. She was sitting there with a young child, and I could see that she was crying.
Mm.
And it just kept like pulling me and pulling me. And like, I wanted to go over there, and I remembered your situation, Shannon. And I was like, oh my God, I want to get up and just like acknowledge her, at least like put my hand on her shoulder and give her a little shoulder squeeze. But I'm sitting at this table with my boss, and I didn't, because it didn't feel right to like walk away from my boss and be like, hey, I'm just going to go give this stranger a hug. I'll be right back. And I would like try to catch her eye just to be like, but
I
she,
see
she
you.
was like, I see you, yes. But she was just like, she had her head down most of the time. I hope her day got better. So, what about comparison? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I think one of the things that I've learned from situations that I dealt with like that, where I felt that way, is learning to use my voice too. Understanding that maybe people don't even see it sometimes, because even with your friend Paula, maybe you didn't even know that your friend was feeling like that. She might have been showing up a little bit differently with a smile on her face every time you see her. And, you may have not known. And so I think that's one thing that I've learned is just trying to reach out, when I feel like I could use a hug or support or a friend to talk to or a family member, and learning to use my voice and maybe when people aren't seeing it, not making assumptions that like I just don't matter or they just don't care. It's that maybe they just don't even know, and I have to kind of make people aware and reach out, learn to reach out and communicate, So that's one thing too. And I also think, being in community regularly, placing yourself, like if you are feeling isolated, maybe
Hmm.
church might be a good community for some people, a regular thing to show up and finding different ways to be connected. Do you like playing kickball? Like go join a kickball league, like having the
I
courage to put yourself out there, just for something fun and trying it. Like Shannon, I know you tried some fitness classes that you never done before, during a big change in your life. Putting yourself out there and kind of seeing what sticks, maybe you meet people in community that way too. But I do think it's important not to just suffer in silence and assume that nobody cares, because I don't believe that. I think that we're all here for a reason, our own reasons, where we had unique gifts and talents embedded into us by God, and we're here to figure out how to put them back into the world is my belief. And
Yeah,
I think we talked about this on another episode of what an amazing miracle it is how we're all here, and to take that for granted, to think that we're not as significant as we are, we really are. We're here for those purposes to figure out what we're meant to give or put back into the world and experience, but nobody is insignificant or irrelevant no matter where they're at in their life.
sure. What you just said about like community, when I was talking with this friend, we were talking about how there are community centers for seniors, right? She's like, I wish I could go to the senior center because they have all these activities every day. They have fitness classes, and they have bingo, and they have dominoes, and they have book clubs, and they have lunch. And she's like, when can I go to the senior center? We should create like an adult center and have a place where singles can gather. And I think,
Totally.
unfortunately, in our society, when you're talking about being single and doing things, it's like with the end game of like meeting someone and
Mhm.
finding your other half. But what about just a place where you can just come and play dodgeball, like you said, Shannon,
Mm.
or learn to crochet, or just to hang out with other singles, not for any other reason, but just to have some company and and share a connection. Let's do that.
35, 40 plus community center,
That's
paramedics on
right.
standby.
There are those
Anyhow.
things though too. There's those meetup groups. Like I did that when I was
Yeah.
Yeah.
in my 20s and single for a while. There was a hiking group that I joined and just getting out and doing things that you might have in common. And even if you end up not liking it, at least you got out there and tried, maybe made some friends in the process.
I used to be a part of this women's group called Women of Courage. And I can't tell you, the ladies of that group were phenomenal, amazing women. It was for single moms that were not in a relationship. And we would get together and just fellowship on a whole nother level and support one another. And I'm thinking about your friend Paula, if she can find just someone, some group just to connect with, to feel that spark again, or even for the first time in her life. I'm hoping that for her.
For all of us, honestly.
Mm.
Oh, so what else did I want to ask you? I think is like it's kind of ironic that we feel, or my friend is feeling irrelevant precisely like at an age, at a point in life where you have accumulated like some knowledge and some wisdom and resilience because you've gone through stuff and insight. I think that in our society, we just place so much emphasis on, being part of a couple that when you're not, I think that's where those feelings sort of start to sneak in, especially if you haven't cultivated other areas of your life to bring you community and bring you joy. What do you guys think?
At that point in your life, maybe it's the thought that the toilet paper roll is going down faster. And so, like you've got to catch up. Like, what am I doing with myself?
Yeah, and just constantly tell yourself it's just a feeling, it's not a fact. No, you are relevant in somebody's life. I'm sure there are people, feel stronger, wiser, happy, and more loved because you are part of their journey.
Ladies, I thought this was an interesting topic for a Sunday Sunday conversation. I don't think my friend is alone in this feeling. I think a lot of things that can make feel irrelevant, whether it's because our children are growing up or our careers are kind of plateauing, or there's this pressure to remain attractive and interesting and relevant, and sometimes feeling like everybody's thriving and you're kind of fading into the background. I don't doubt that this is a feeling that exists out there for a lot of women. But I think that relevance isn't about being noticed. I think we said it really well in our conversation that it's about being connected to what we're here to do, to the gifts that we have that we should share, like Erin said, and being connected to the people whose lives we touch every single day. And I think maybe just opening our eyes up to the fact that we do touch lives every day. And if you aren't, that there's definitely opportunities out there to be able to do that. So thanks for joining us today on the Sunday Sunday podcast. We hope you have a really great day and go out there and make a connection with someone. Have a great day.
Happy Sunday.